Hello and welcome to Rupp Arena, where Tennessee just took down Kentucky by over 10 points. They scored in the hundreds. I'm Ryan Sylvia. This is Noah Taylor. We're with VolReport.com on the Rivals Network. And it was a shootout. It was an offensive showdown. But Tennessee comes out on top, never trails in the game. They had the lead for over 39 minutes with a quick three-pointer by Zakai Ziegler. And from there, it was all orange in Lexington. First, I want to start with Josiah-Jordan James. He ties for the team lead in points with 26, tying with Zakai Ziegler. But he was averaging 3 points per SEC contest heading into tonight. Drops 26, knocks down 4 three-pointers. What were your thoughts on how he played?
Yeah, just massive to have him back. And you know, a guy that, like you said, had struggled here in SEC play. There were points this season where we thought he was playing his best since he's been at Tennessee. And it was good to see him get that back tonight for Tennessee. I think it was huge, too, talking to the guys back there, talking to Rick Barnes this week. It was huge for them to kind of prove that this team can be more than Dalton Connect offensively. And I think we've kind of known that they've had that ability. But then, you know, you talk about his average of 3 points. Went scoreless against Vanderbilt, had the 2 last week. Zakai Ziegler, another guy who had a low scoring output last week as well. And obviously those 2 come out tonight. So I think that bodes really well for Tennessee. And to do it in this building, too. You know, a hard place to win. But for Josiah to come out here, hit one early, I think, and it just the confidence. And then had the dagger down here as well, I would argue. So that really bodes well for Tennessee to go on the road and then have a guy that's been in the slump seemingly shoot out of it and just have a really good performance.
I think it says a lot that they had that balanced effort.
Yeah.
Don't connect, not a bad game by any means. Doesn't get up to that 20-point mark, but in the mid to high teens. But you now get effort from Josiah-Jordan James. Santiago Vespi scores 11. Zakai, like you said, didn't have a great game against South Carolina. Well, he responds with a really nice one tonight with those 26 points, a double-double effort for him as well. Jonas Adu in double figures too. So you get that balance. And I think that's what Tennessee needed to see. It's great when you have those games. Dalton Connect goes for nearly 40 points, but that's not necessarily sustainable. And when you're looking at a March Madness run that could be on the table, it's good to see other guys be able to step up. On the same note, though, with Josiah-Jordan James, Santiago Vespi both playing well, 3 wins for them inside this arena in 5 years. So they're going to end their Tennessee basketball career with a winning win percentage, above 500 win percentage inside Rupp Arena here in Lexington. So that says a lot about where Rick Barnes has this program right now. 11-9 against Kentucky under Rick Barnes. I don't think a lot of coaches can say that they've played this many games against Kentucky and have that good of a winning percentage. But let's talk about Zakai Ziegler. 26 points, double-double effort, big game for him. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, was just aside from what he was able to do on the court, a guy, like you mentioned, came down, opens it up with a 3. Tennessee never trails in the game. It started early for him, and it just never let up. And then obviously what he did with the assist as well, getting a double-double himself, which we know obviously he's capable of doing any night of the week with the way he does give out assists. But I think what was interesting, too, talking to the coaches and the players was, you know, Zakai Ziegler's response in practice after last week. That was kind of when we talked to Rick yesterday on Friday. One of the questions was, what has his demeanor kind of been like after that South Carolina performance? Really rare for Zakai to kind of come out and play a game like that and be flat. And Rick Barnes said he's got confidence he would bounce right back. Obviously, you saw that tonight, but a lot of it too was the way he kind of got onto guys in practice. Kind of played, I think one of the reporters back there, that villain role that I think a lot of guys probably aren't used to, but it obviously paid off really well. I thought that was interesting. Just given his response after that and the way that he kind of really may have been kind of the will to win for this team, the way he kind of responded.
The quote from Rick Barnes was something along the lines of, I can't be the only voice here that's getting onto guys. You guys as a team need to get onto each other. And then going along with that, he said he doesn't want to hear anymore, we're all right in the huddle when they're not all right. Because there is times in that South Carolina game where they weren't all right. There was times in this Kentucky game where, although Tennessee led, Kentucky got it within 1. Down the stretch, Kentucky went on that 7-0 run, and it was like, here's their best shot at this. Maybe things aren't all right. They had to lock in. They had to be realistic with themselves. And Zakai Ziegler at the helm of that, kind of the name as the point guard, the veteran, the junior that stands out in that respect. Tobe Awaka gets in a little bit of a scrum here in the second half as well. 2 technical fouls on both sides of things. Ends up being really important. Rob Dillingham, who goes for 35 points, his career high. He's a true freshman, projected to be one of the top picks in the NBA draft after this season. But that's a foul for him. And he ends up fouling out of this game by the end, has to sit a big chunk of the game, and he played really, really well. So on one hand, what are your thoughts on kind of how that impacted the game in that respect? But then also, following that foul, Tobe Awaka put together some really solid minutes. So what were your thoughts, one, Rob Dillingham, and how that moment affected kind of the rest of the game? And then two, Tobe Awaka only played, I think, 10 minutes, but really important down the stretch.
Yeah, I think with Rob Dillingham, like you mentioned, I mean, he was a bulk of Kentucky's offense, seemed unstoppable for Tennessee when Kentucky had the ball. And like you said, I mean, that foul haunted him the rest of the game. You know, picks it up there and has to come out for a critical stretch there in the second half. And the next thing you know, you're kind of past the midway point. He's still not on the floor. He finally comes back in this game, and Tennessee at that point, you know, has a 10-point lead and is kind of able to ride it out from there. And, you know, when he gets back in before he fouls out, he has, you know, a couple shots going down there. Yeah. It's starting to get a little bit interesting again, but that was massive. Haunted him the rest of the way, haunted Kentucky. And to talk about Tobe, yeah, I mean, it was good to see a guy that's kind of struggled to stay on the floor because he's had his own foul troubles in SEC play in particular, but a fiery response there on there. And even, you know, Zakai Ziegler and Josiah-Jordan James we just talked to back there, that was kind of a turning point in the game for them. Tennessee obviously led the whole way and seemed in control for the most part, but it was kind of a sequence where seeing a guy like that step up and then having the feeling of, I think Josiah said, a guy having your back. I think that really kind of ignited that bench, and at that point it kind of felt like Tennessee wasn't going to lose the game. And I think that's what Josiah told Tobe in the huddle was, we're not losing this game, and you know, I think that was a turning point for them and something that Tobe, you know, it's got to be a really good start for him, the starting point for him the rest of the way.
Before we get out of here, really quickly, your thoughts on the minutes that Cam Carr got in the first half. Came in for, I think it was just 4 minutes. He's the guard that came off the bench. We've seen Freddie Dillion be that guy at times, being that freshman guard that gets a little bit of early play time when they need it. It was Cam Carr today. Really nice defensive effort. Has the alley-oop to Josiah, who throws it down, but also a really ugly three-point attempt. So what are your thoughts on what Cam Carr gave Tennessee tonight and going forward?
Yeah, I think when it happened, I think you looked at me and we were both kind of surprised to see him kind of thrown into the fire there in a road game like this. And like you said, Freddie's kind of been that guy for them, but makes an immediate impact. I think got a rebound there on the defensive end and then sets up, you know, one of those plays that just really ignited Tennessee in that first half. And Kentucky looks like they're going to come away with a defensive rebound and take it down the other end. And, you know, Cameron Carr and Santiago Vescovi stick with it and poke the ball away from Reed Shepherd. And like you said, turns into a point in a big kind of moment for Tennessee there offensively. But, yeah, and then the missed shot, I think it was kind of one of those moments where you see a guy and you're kind of, right, he comes in, makes the most of it, you're kind of shocked, surprised, and then you see a play like that, and you're like, okay, well, he is a freshman, this is a big road game, but I think, you know, they've got to be very pleased with what he was able to do in that short amount of time.
And I will say Cam Carr is a good shooter.
Yeah.
That was surprising to see. We've seen at practice him be able to knock down the shots. We've also seen some of those types of misses as well, but Cam Carr, a guy that looks like Rick Barnes might want to use a little bit more. He's got kind of the physical, like, wingspan, size, athleticism, that he could be a really effective kind of two-way guard for Tennessee going forward. And if he can kind of capture some of those moments that he had tonight, use that experience going forward, he could be a piece of this team that they'll rely on if a guy like Vescovi, Zakai Ziegler, go down the list of all these guards, does find themselves in a little bit of foul trouble. That'll do it all from us here in Lexington, Kentucky, where once again Tennessee comes out with a big bounce-back win in a top 10 matchup with the Wildcats. We'll be back in Knoxville tomorrow. Tennessee, the Lady Vols, hosting Missouri. They just got a big win on the road against Georgia, looking to make it 2 in a row as they are kind of on that bubble right now in a lot of March Madness projections. So every game counts for the Lady Vols. We'll have coverage over there. Of course, this men's team now fighting for first place in the SEC, just slightly behind, but definitely in the picture. Baseball season coming up in less than 2 weeks. And football just had their junior day. They had a bunch of recruits on Rocky Top this weekend. We'll have coverage on all of that. Make sure you head over to VolReport.com. Links to everything you need is in the description. Thank you for watching.